Good afternoon, everyone. Second 100-year flood in Sudan in 3 weeks. That would make sense if the African monsoon was shifting. All of the Sahel is becoming wetter, which could indicate a new grow zone. Because looking back in the past, once we crossed the border with Egypt heading into Nubia, the land of the Kush, pyramid complexes built like this that you've never heard of, ruins littering the desert in this area, the exact same area where these massive floods are occurring. They've even discovered a mega lake in Darfur. And this is where the water's pooling and draining. These lakes are beginning to refill. Whoever controls this grow zone of 13.8 million square kilometers in the 21st century will dominate. Consider the United States is only 9.1 million, but you're going to have to pay all the workers that are over there. Suddenly, central bank digital currency issued with each individual nation for cross-border payments, all equaling $1 as a stable coin. Now, every nation across the Sahel can issue their own central bank digital currency, all with the equivalent value. So when you hear about the great reset of society, maybe right here is where you need to look because it's debuting first, right now. And just a quick word from this video's sponsor. You know, if you'd worked for a company for years before COVID came along and they let you go, you may have left some treasure behind. Your old 401k or IRA could be worth thousands, and it's still working for your old firm, not you. So if you're a bit uncertain about what the future holds right now, and how you can convert your old 401k or IRA into a gold or precious metals-backed IRA, it's worth jumping on the phone and calling the team at Noble Gold. 877-646-5347, and the link's in the description box below. And I'd covered just even a few weeks ago, Sudan with a more than a century flood. And shockingly, another one just within 3 weeks. Worst flood in a century. How could that be possible? Two of these events happening just weeks apart, breaking the century mark and going to incredible high water levels. Downtown Khartoum here for you. And what we've been programmed as an image of Sudan is blowing dust. And especially when you get further afield, you start to see water across the landscape. Now we're going to jump back in time here. This map's from 1851. The orange line right in the center is the border between Egypt and now Sudan, previously Nubia. And obviously on the right, the Sphinx and the pyramids, but as we go left, we start to see different complexes and large amounts of ruins through this region that most of us have never heard of before. The land of the Kush, civilization 5,000 years ago flourishing, we've been redeflected. Pyramids only, Khufu only, but what about Kush? And as we head across the border, over 65 archaeological sites of massive proportion along the Nile and further west out into what is pure desert right now. And a glimpse here at the Nuri pyramids, smaller versions of the Great Pyramids of Egypt, but just as impressive. And you're telling me that a place with no water can build out such architecture and greatness. The shift was a massive shift from forest-like climate over into desert. Same on the lower Nile, right along with the pyramids. Savanna grasslands turning into desert. Well, recently the new scientists noticed a mega lake in Darfur. This lake used to cover 30,000 square kilometers. And where these massive floods are going, they're starting to refill this area. And the Great Renaissance Dam is a stone's throw from here as well. And what they're trying to show you is the elevation difference, how much this filled up. 247 meters or 190 meters. So remember, in the States, 1 meter is 3 feet. So that's a significant difference in water depth there. Recharging Nubian aquifer. Obviously, there had to have been an enormous amount of above-ground rainfall as well to keep that flowing. Okay, an aquifer is great, but you're going to need clouds to also drop rain in there. And right where the box is, you're going to see the Salima. That's also an oasis in Sudan, well known. And if you go to the east of this, you're going to come to where the Great Renaissance Dam is being built. So who knew all these water events were happening? Mega lakes here that if the first places to refill were going to be the low-lying areas of these mega lakes. So somebody with great knowledge of past cycles is placing infrastructure in these areas to capture water again in some of the driest places on the planet. Now, if you continue south where those lines were on all the maps we've seen, once you get into Sudan, you start to get into these areas that are well known. This is the tourist circuit for the biggest and most protected and safest ruins that you can visit within the country. But if you go west of Celeb, you're going to come up into that Salima aquifer again. And that whole area that's desert is littered with habitation from the past. And most interesting, the massive floods pinpointed on the map here are matching up with the archaeological ruins. So we can look at it with the pinpoint accuracy here of the Holocene climate in northwest Sudan. This is shifting again back to the same exact pattern. African monsoon rainfall. And if you knew this was happening in areas such as China, Canada, northern parts of the United States, northern parts of Europe, parts of Australia going offline, not going to be able to grow nearly enough food, but this area is going to become much wetter here, these 13.8 million square kilometers. This turned into a grow zone, would produce more grain than all of North America combined. Not only in size, but a double crop and abundant sunlight throughout the entire year. And comparing with the U.S., even just landmass-wise, 9.1 million square kilometers, but in the States, we don't farm every square inch. But out in the desert areas that are almost uninhabited across the Sahel, that could be farmed in a rural community setting. Now looking at the Sahel, stretching from Mauritania all the way over to Sudan. And obviously places like Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, these are all incredibly wet and experiencing massive floods anyway. And Mali, Niger, Chad, also all-time record floods have been there the last 2 years in a row specifically. This year definitely showing an uptick. But this is the trend map. If it's blue, it's becoming wetter. The darker the blue, the more moisture is falling. And you can see it following along the Sahel, and it's extending northward. So this is going to provide ample rain for crops to be grown, as well as tapping that Nubian aquifer. Instead of a natural flow, imagine putting pipes down there. We could tap that Nubian aquifer and grow an enormous amount of food in North Africa, Central Africa. And if you're looking at the floods themselves, over 2019, the amount of floods that occurred in this same area here. Or if it is orange, it's drying out. But you can see there's an enormous amount more blue than there is orange. Link to everything in the description box below so you can chase down all the leads in tonight's video. The pyramid complexes back up at Nuri, in the middle of the desert now, yes. And this Nubian culture is a different branch from the Egyptians. So what kind of economy and resources would you need to build pyramids and pyramid complexes, temples and cities in what is now dry areas? This kind of art and massive architecture, although similar to Egyptians, Nubian. Nonetheless, where did they get all the resources, financing, manpower, water, food to build these types of never-ending ruins stretching across all of the Sudan over into Ethiopia? And if we look at the mega lake that's been discovered with LiDAR recently, go back 5,000 years in time, this thing would have been nearly full. Because if we're talking about mid-Holocene, we're only at 6,000 to 7,000 years in the past, and the mega lakes were absolutely full. Rivers were running. Massive amounts of water across Africa, Central, North. And the area in the square box here in red is the area where the mega lake has been shown to be. Go a little bit east of there, and what do you find? All those ruin complexes again. Now keep in mind, those are the ones that are the largest, easiest to get to, and they can offer protection for tourists going in there. And what is that? Wild lands out to the west bordering on Chad. What archaeological treasures are out there? Inaccessible, but massive nonetheless. And looking at the West African monsoon rainfall, left is where we are now, right is where it was, where it's beginning to go again. These areas in the darkest blue are the first areas to receive rainfall when this shifts on a 4,500-year pattern. And it looks like we're back in it again. So let's do a mind experiment. For a second, all that water's coming in. This area is going to become a massive new agricultural area. They're going to have millions of people working in here. Infrastructure, Everything's going to be built from the ground up. One problem, though. Commercial bank branches are some of the lowest in the world, especially in sub-Saharan Africa compared to the global average. But looking at ownership of cryptocurrency, they understand it across Africa way better than the States. The worldwide adoption around 7%, but there's a lot of countries that are much higher than that. South Africa, Nigeria, but even a step down, Ghana, Kenya, they understand it. You talk to the average American, they're not going to know what cryptocurrency is. Yeah, maybe they heard of a Bitcoin, but here in Africa, because they have no other options, they're adopting peer-to-peer payments and cryptocurrency right away as the only option. And looking at the cryptocurrency across Africa PDF that came out a few months back here, anywhere in red, crypto's banned. Everywhere else is a go, and South Africa is really pushing it. Now think about that for just a second. These central bank digital currencies that we're all going to be involved with the universal basic income and the dollar reset, don't think of it as a dollar reset. Think of it as something that is equal to $1 that will be the new currency that will be equivalent across all countries. It can be used to pay across borders. Individuals can pay individuals. Individuals can pay companies. You can buy things in a shop. Governments can pay governments. Companies can pay governments. They call this the CBDC pyramid. Just as much as you know the food pyramid, you are absolutely in your life going to need to know what this one means here. Distributed ledger, central bank infrastructure, all running a stable coin. And when I say stable coin, it's going to be from the Bank of International Settlements set out through all central banks across the planet on a platform that will allow each country to then create their own central bank digital currency equal to a dollar, which will be spendable across all countries with the same exact value. Right now we have exchange rates for different things. That's going to be a thing of the past. And glimpsing into the future, Apollo FinTech is developing exactly this, national payment platforms along with Algorand to have a stable token for central banks. Now this is for both Africa and us anywhere in the West. And Apollo FinTech leading the way into Africa on their platforms, peer-to-peer, merchants, SMS codes, anything, cards, offline. And the key is going to be authorized banks to onboard merchants and citizens. Now take it a step further. This national payment platform will allow anybody on the planet to pay with a sovereign currency. Now that means that a central bank digital currency of a country is now spendable on this platform, and they're trying to get everything cross-platform interoperability. And again, it's always down to the registered banks, the commercial entities. You're going to need a way to pay these people over in Africa that are going to be working in these zones. And then here we go. This is it. A bend around the corner. A stable coin that's going to unite it all for all central banks across the planet is going to be USDC. And it's going to be running on Algorand. Algo, the coin that you're also going to look for. You can stake that as well if you know what that means. This stable coin is going to be the base of all the payment systems across the planet. It's not going to be a US dollar. It's going to be a US dollar equivalent stable coin. Do not mix those up. And the central bank digital currency, new dollar, Fed dollar, is not one of these. It is something completely different for your universal basic income. This is going to be the thing that traders are going to use to hold value. You're going to get the sloppy devaluing on the smart contract central bank digital currency that you have to spend every month, or else it goes to zero on the contract at the end to force you to spend it to increase the velocity of money. Every country is going to be able to issue their own central bank digital currency on the same settlement architecture and nationally mandated sovereign digital currency from a nation. Now you might say, oh, that's great. Everybody can spend everybody's money across. This is a global currency that's coming out. But all the while, your global tax is going to be 1/20th of a cent per transaction. It's already built in. The global tax that we've all been talking about, it's going to be masked through the 18 decimal points deep on this new one world currency. Every transaction monitored. Every transaction takes 1/20th of a cent. For now, that algorithm could easily change to push to 1/10 of a cent or a full cent. They're starting it off so you don't see it. And they're also starting it off in Africa, because they've deflected everybody into thinking the entire reset's going to start in the United States with the collapse of the dollar. No, the reset's already started. The way we do finance, the way we do agriculture, the way the grow zones are shifting, and everything's focused in Africa. You're looking in the wrong place, because it is all about the food. And how prepared are you for emergencies? My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. As you can see, governments across the planet focusing on food and a global currency. You might want to focus on food too. The link's in the description box below. It's a great way to support the channel for the research on videos like this. I appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of it. The future is indeed changing and the reset's here. This is a glimpse into it.